Hey, this is Dave. You're about to listen to or watch my interview with Nic Sementa on his brand new book, Breathing Ego, a guided workbook for leaders under pressure. Nic's been a guest on the podcast in the past. Our conversations are always amazing, and they're full of all these weird little verbal side quests that we run into. But with this one, the thing that I am most excited about is Nic sharing his experiences as a leader, coupled with his deep level of humility and this really insightful way that he approaches leading people and also working through the different challenging opportunities, in quotes, that leaders face. Before we get into that, I have two quick announcements to share. The first is that if you're going to be in Vancouver the week of May 4th for the Scrum Gathering, Stuart Young and I are going to be leading a session called Systems of Imperfection, Discovering Your Superpowers. It's taking place on May 4th at 11 a.m. Pacific. So if you're going to be at the conference, please stop by and say hi. There are a lot of sessions going on. Ours is definitely going to be the best. So you should come and check it out. The second thing is that earlier this week, John Tanner, Josh French, and I had a conversation during a Maven Lightning lesson, which was focused on the idea of how to gain confidence as an AI-ready project manager or Scrum Master. And it was a bit of a teaser. John and I have built a one-day course that we're offering that's aimed at project managers and Scrum Masters who are struggling to find their place in AI and can't really figure out how to get started. So for me, I was completely overwhelmed. I went from not wanting anything to do with AI to basically finally just giving up and accepting my fate that this is going to be part of my life. And it would probably be easier to stop fighting it and trying to figure out how I could use it to amplify my ability to be of service to others, to get my work done. And the side note there is that's exactly the same thing that happened to me with Agile. It wasn't until I stopped fighting it that I was able to see the value in it. So if you're a project manager or a Scrum Master who feels overwhelmed and lost as you're staring down this existential threat to your idea of identity, please consider joining us on May 30th for a course called AI Ready for PMs. You can find a link to all the information about it in the show notes. And if you just want to check out the conversation we had on Maven, there's a link to that in the show notes as well. So that's it. Strap in. Here comes Nic.
If you learn to work the old way, but the new way's what you need, my job's to make that switch from old to new. Suck less for you than it did for me. Here on Drunken PM Radio. Whoa! Here on Drunken PM Radio. Whoa!
Hey, this is Dave Fryer. Welcome to the Reluctant Agilist. Nic Sementa is back. Nic, thank you for making time out of your very busy day.
Thank you, Dave. It's wonderful to be here. As I said, I have missed you very much.
I've missed you too. It's been a long time. And congratulations on the book, which I don't know if they can see it behind you, but it's called Breathing Ego, your brand new book.
Yep.
All right.
These ones say not for resale.
Okay. So before we jump into the book, because that's what we're going to talk about, would you mind trying to give these people some sort of overview of who you are and what your background is?
So I am Nic Sementa. I am the consummate salesman.
Okay.
I didn't want to be broke, so I started in sales at 16. By 19, I owned my first call center. I have trained and coached thousands, maybe tens of thousands of salespeople over the years. I've owned 11 businesses. I have had 4 of them have successful exits. I have had 7 of them burn horribly to the ground under my management.
Do your watch.
Which is one of the things I talk about, right? Like one of the craziest things for me is that people keep coming back to work with me after they watch me crash and burn. And it's like, yeah, but you're a good boss. I'm like, how am I a good boss if I like horribly mismanaged what I was doing? They're like, because you didn't blame us. And
Well, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
You know, my successes are my team's and my failures are mine.
All right. So what led to the book? Because I'll admit, I mean, we've known each other for a while, but when I saw that you wrote a book, I was like, holy crap, Nic wrote a book. Like, that's not something I would expect out of you.
Well, also because you know that I'm horribly dyslexic.
Yes.
So like, that's part of it, but there's a couple of fun facts. Like it's a workbook. So when a dyslexic person writes a book, their intention is for you to write more words in it than they did. So if you use my book correctly, you will literally have put more words in it than I did.
Okay.
So that's kind of important.
All right.
Number 2, it was, we all spend a lot of time discussing organizational psychology and like the mindset around change and like how do you get people to make these small adjustments in their thinking that lead to big adjustments in their life, right?
Right.
And so like, as I've coached literally hundreds of people on this, hundreds of my own salespeople, thousands of other people's salespeople, and like managers, especially my sales managers, on how to manage the egos of their closers.
Right.
Because like you're dealing with a super high ego person when someone is a very good salesperson. They're also super charming, super charismatic, and super manipulative. So like managing them is like trying to nail Jello to the wall.
Right.
Right. It is the ultimate form of herding cats. So the more I spent time around you guys and you were like, well, you don't understand how hard it is to manage engineers, I would be like, you guys want to trade for a day? Because I will happily, like, I'll take a couple of like slightly antisocial smart people over a bunch of like egomaniacal jocks who wanted to give me swirlies when I was in high school. But that's the game, right? Like that's sales, and that's where the money was. And for me, I got into business very specifically because I wanted to take care of the people around me, right? Like I had this awesome grandfather who just passed last year. And one of the things that he beat into me was, you know, you'll never change the world with empty pockets and empty promises. So step one is make your money. Step two is keep your word if you want to be a
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
like,
great.
It's a really cool message that I think a lot of these kids that are running around, they're like, I want to change the world. It's like, well, you know, the old man gave me a recipe. Step one, make a bunch of money. Step two, keep your word and do the right thing. That's what changes the world.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And he would say that legacy, and this is something that's been ruminating in me a lot since his passing, is legacy is making a family and a business that are strong enough to take care of each other in your absence.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a really cool sentence.
Yeah.
Right? And then so that started me on the thinking path of like, you know, the legacy of our country. And that got me on Ben Franklin, like the least controversial figure of the founding fathers. Like no one really has like a weird issue with Franklin. You know what I mean? Like people have a weird issue with almost everybody of the founding fathers.
Yeah.
But Ben, he's kind of, he's clean. You know, for the most part, they're just
as
like
far as we know,
electricity, you know,
printing
inventing
press
stuff, hanging out, writing the Farmer's Almanac, trying to give information to the common man. He was a pretty good guy, right?
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things that he was given the task of was creating our first currency. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
So he designed what's called the Fujio cent, which was
the currency that is now being signed by our current president.
No, currency, like our money. He designed our first money.
Yeah. Well, that Donald Trump is now signing.
He's signing money?
He's signing money as of last week. It's his signature on the money now.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so good. Just for funsies.
Let's talk about one of the things on the site that really stuck out for me was this idea of treating your ego like a lung. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about ego and the idea of breathing through it.
So that's the reason for the book, right? Is that in the last 10 years of being around you guys and getting asked like, what is the ideal way to manage people, and like literally learning. You guys are some of the smartest, the Agile community are some of the smartest people I've ever met. And you guys read a lot and you talk a lot and I listen a lot. And I was like, okay, so there's two competing schools of thought. There's a bunch of people who believe in servant leadership, where it's like you completely sacrifice the self and you focus on like just being like a motherly Sherpa-like figure to your team. Right. And then there's people who believe in like the command and control model of like the 80s and 90s with the 48 laws of power, which is just like, hey, you need to have your thumb on people. You need to tell them exactly what to do. You have to have like, it's literally command and control.
Have your thumb on them, but don't let them know you have your thumb on them. Yeah.
100%. Manipulate the living hell out of them so that you can get the best work out of them, which is equally destructive, if not more so destructive than being a servant leader.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm a person who believes that when life gives you options, you should choose both. Right.
Okay.
So as I'm looking at these two models and I'm like, which one is the correct model? It was like, well, it's both. Like there are times, right, when you have to be a complete psycho about your vision and just be like, I'm the one with it's my dream. We are pursuing what I believe needs to be done.
Okay.
Right. But then there are times when you have to completely step aside and say, I have no clue how we get there though.
Okay.
And that's sort of what started to register for me. It was actually many, many, many years ago. I was sitting on the front porch of the house in Chicago with my attorney neighbor. And I was talking about the fact that like I was going through one of those moments of ego death they talk about in the new age, where I was like, I'm really not that important, man. Like, Like, I just need to just not have an ego and everything will be great. And he turns to me and he was a little drunk at the time, but he goes, you have to have an ego. And I was like, why do you have to have an ego? He goes, you couldn't eat a candy bar without one. And I was like, what?
That's
And he
true.
goes, if you have no ego, there's no difference between you and this Snickers. So you would be eating yourself to enjoy a Snickers. How is that enjoyable?
Wow.
Yeah. And that was sort of like the first apex thought of like, okay, so killing your ego is obviously not healthy because you need it. It serves a
Well, not
function.
possible either. Not entirely.
Not entirely. So if it can't be taken away completely, and that's unhealthy, and if it's too big, that's unhealthy, then what's the actual right way of doing this? So after many years of thinking about this, it was maybe like 6, 7 years ago that I had the conversation with Alistair, and I was like, I think a healthy ego is like a healthy lung. And he was like, why do you think that? I'm like, because when you inflate your sense of I, it gives you the ability to accomplish more. Like, the bigger
Okay.
my sense of I, the more I can do.
Yeah.
When I deflate my sense of I, the more I can understand.
Huh. Okay.
So in order
So it's
to,
like a yin yang kind of a thing.
yeah, so like it's like, so you have to take like a big deep breath and be like, I can do this, and then upon the accomplishing of said thing, take an exhale and say, how did that affect the people around me?
Okay.
Well, then it goes a step further, and it's like, okay, so if that's rhythmic, and I start stepping into and out of that sense of power, and I
Right.
step into it to preserve the vision, and I step out of it to actually allow the people around me to take their part of it, how does that work? Right? And then I'm looking at Alistair's Heart of Agile, because I
Okay.
sit with this man all day, and he goes, collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. And I'm like, man, that's wild. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's a breath. I'm like, you have to exhale to
Yeah.
collaborate. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you have to inhale to deliver. He's like, yeah. I'm like, you have to exhale to reflect. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you have to inhale to improve.
Okay.
Like, 2 of those things require you to have low ego. 2 of those things require you to have high ego.
But that's not something that salespeople are going to be. I would imagine they would lean more towards the ego side than the reflect side.
Well, again, the book isn't
I'm
for
stereotyping,
salespeople.
but
Yeah, but the book isn't for salespeople. The book is for leaders, right? The book is for
okay.
anybody who's managing other people. And specifically, the book answers 2 of the biggest questions I get asked all the time. Number 1 is, how do I hire and retain people who are smarter than me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And number 2 is, how do I manage the unmanageable ego? Right? Like, once I have these people who are awesome, right? How do I manage them? Because they don't normally, the reason they're so awesome, they don't want to be managed.
Yeah.
Right? The more highly skilled and the more you know you're highly skilled, the less likely you are to submit to someone else's management.
Okay.
But then that gets into the nuances between managing a person and leading a person.
So how do you
don't
define the
manage your
difference?
generals. Well, I
Okay.
mean, look at it like a battlefield. Like, you don't manage your generals. I don't tell you how to lead that squad. I don't tell you how to fight that battle. I know you're a general for me because I know that if I tell you we have to take that territory,
Yeah.
you'll do it. I can't be involved in the granular on the battlefield. It's impossible. Because
Okay.
if you're there, I'm here.
Yeah.
So there has to be a high degree of trust that you can do that.
Okay. So
So like, it
here I
kind of
have a
comes from
question.
leading leaders. Go ahead.
Okay. And we may have to cut this out, but I'm seeing something happen now where there are leaders who have hired people who are theoretically skillful and knowledgeable and experienced and trusted to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
And the leader asks them to do something, gives them a direction. Okay. And then as the person starts to work on the thing, the leader goes into Claude and comes back and says, well, Claude just said this, so why don't you just do that?
I hate that.
Well,
I mean,
it's
first of all,
causing, like, I'm hearing
no.
now people talk about AI in not just fear anymore, but loss. It's like sadness because it's their boss trusts Claude more than they trust them, and it's taking away all the good parts of their
You
job.
have no idea how many like owners and entrepreneurs and leaders that I have had to sit down and be like, hey, it's an AI. It's not your fucking co-founder. It's designed like a drug to give you a dopamine hit from interacting with it. So it's the ultimate yes man. You know what's really dangerous to a company? Promoting yes men around your leadership staff. And if you are grabbing AI, you literally just hired the ultimate dopamine inducing drug addiction building yes man on the planet. It's literally like, it's sort of crazy when you think about it, right? Because like, it is literally being designed in a way that gives you enough positive affirmation from what you believe to cause a dopamine release. That's why it's so hard to put ChatGPT down.
And it feeds your ego, which maybe they look at it as fueling the thing they need to push the ball forward.
Correct. I'm right. I'm right. Everyone's looking for the conversation bias of being I'm right, which is crazy when you think about the fact that to be an entrepreneur, to be in the startup mindset, you have to fail.
Yeah.
Right? You have to make mistakes, validate your learning, and fail forward to be successful. But yet we're in a place right now where I want to be hyper validated to my rightness through an AI telling me I'm right.
Well, because it's scary.
Everything's scary.
Yeah, but failure, the idea, I think maybe you can validate this. To me, the idea of failure is more scary than the failure itself.
I actually think that's true of most people.
Okay.
And I think that's poor tuning, right?
All right.
Like I said, for me, failure is a necessary part of the process. In fact, most of the Agile community, one of the things I loved about you guys was that you described failure as validated learning. And I was like, all right, cool. So you have to fail. Like you don't know shit until you try something. And the odds are most things you try are not going to line up to what is real. Right. So like the only way we can actually ever find the real answer is to like get punched in the face a couple of times.
Okay.
And like as an entrepreneur, that's what it takes, right? Like it takes getting hit.
You got to make your bones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like, and there's phases, right? To go from an entrepreneur to an employer is a huge jump.
Right.
I'm not an entrepreneur anymore. I have dozens and dozens of people that now work for me, right? My payroll is now more than I ever thought possible.
Okay.
Right? I have a 7-figure payroll. Once you cross a 7-figure payroll, you are no longer an entrepreneur. You are now an employer.
Okay.
Right? When you have dozens of families that your decisions affect the food on their table, you are an employer because the way that you think is different.
And that's a very hard shift from being like
an entrepreneur where you can take unlimited risk. An entrepreneur is your risk tolerance is your risk tolerance. An employer, your risk tolerance is your company's risk tolerance.
So you talked about dopamine hits. I'm imagining that somebody who spends a lot of time as an entrepreneur, I mean, what I've seen, some people get kind of addicted to that high and low. I mean, it's extreme. You know, really great successes and really terrible cratering. But that, I mean, it's almost like an emotional addiction.
Well, it's because they're playing the game wrong. And I guess this is what I was saying about Franklin, right? So Ben Franklin, when he was asked to make our first pennies, he put mind your business on one side and we are one on the other side.
Okay.
Which I thought is a really interesting thing to put on money, right?
Yeah.
And the idea was that he believed every person had the responsibility to mind their business, to create some form of value to this new country that we lived in. That's what a business.
So they were all entrepreneurs in their own way.
Correct. Everyone in some way is coming to the table to provide value and exchange it for value.
Okay.
Simple.
But so the way that I would translate that into what I experience is I look at myself as working for myself. Mm-hmm. Getting paid by different people to do that because I have a mission I'm on, I have things I'm trying to achieve, and that's how I look at my work. But there are millions of people that do not have that mindset, that show up because they have to, because they're making.
Dave, you are an entrepreneur. There's a difference.
Okay.
So I believe that you go through 4 phases, 4 distinctly different phases. Phase number 1 is you're an employee, right? You don't really pay attention to anything else. You show up, you do the job, you leave. That's all you care about. You really don't have any other goals aside from providing yourself with the resources to enjoy your life outside of work.
Okay.
Then one day you wake up and you go, wait a minute, something is happening here. I am exchanging my value for value. And even though I have a job, I'm sort of in a certain level of control of that relationship. I can make myself more valuable and I can ask for more money and I can negotiate.
Right.
And then you start entrepreneuring where you're like, how do I position myself and my skills to be at the maximum value to every company I work with and at?
Okay.
Right. And that's kind of where you're at. You're like, how do I align my mission and my resource taking from these companies to myself? I'm no longer just showing up like a drone. I'm showing up because I have goals. I have monetary goals. I have prospect goals. I have things that I want to do. And I know that this is the way I get there.
Okay.
And then one day you go, holy crap, my skills are so valuable that multiple companies should be paying me for just this one skill set.
Okay.
That's how you jump to an entrepreneur. That's how you go from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, is that one day you realize, oh man, I am
I
extremely
am
good
the
at this.
business. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And
Okay.
then you become the business. And then you get to a point where you're like, I have now crossed this threshold where I know how to manage others. And the thing that I wanted is now here. And I am no longer I can no longer be the center of it. I am now what's actually holding it back. If I can't step to the side and let other people work on this thing, if I
Yeah.
cannot give other people ownership in my dream will die with me.
Okay.
And that's when you sort of make the mindset shift to employer.
Okay. So you talk a lot, on the site and in the book about your shortcoming or your failures as a manager, right? Great
Mhm.
successes, great failures. Um, how did that lead you or teach you what you needed to know to be able to put this stuff down?
I realized the game that I was playing, and I realized how much I wanted to get everybody else playing the same game. Okay.
Okay.
So the second you realize that business is a game, that work is a game, right? And it kind of comes back to something that was said to me many years ago before he passed away, my best friend, and he wrote it in my daughter's birthday journal years and years back. He wrote, "If it looks like your dad's not having fun, it's because he forgot that we're playing."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And he used
Okay.
to say it to me all the time. He'd come in my office and go, "Dude, you really look like you're having a shitty day." And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "For a guy that gets to wake up every day and play like the most fun game on the planet, you don't really look like you're enjoying it."
Okay.
Right. And then he would tell me that the reason that people get the game twisted is because they're playing it wrong. And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, the way they play the game is that they believe it's about getting the high score and getting to the end screen.
Hmm.
But that's not the game. Like there's no high score and end.
Right.
Right? The actual point of the game is like an MMORPG. It's like World of Warcraft. The point of the game is to stay in the game as long as
And
humanly
play.
possible
Yeah.
and have the most fun and keep getting your levels up."
Okay.
Right? What makes that game fun? I keep getting my levels keep going up. Therefore, the things that I do keep getting cooler. Right?
Yeah.
And I just want to stay in the game and keep leveling up and doing cooler stuff.
So what about the idea? I'm going to paraphrase something that Jim Cundiff and I've talked about a bunch, which is you're only on. I mean, I think about the work that I do, right? I'm only on the planet for a short amount of time. I have a lot of things I feel like I need to get done. They're
Hmm.
part of legacy is not the word, but it feels to me like this is the work that I'm here to do.
Purpose.
Yeah. Um, how does that tie into it? Because it's not just I want to play the game as long as possible. I want to play the game as long as possible, but I'm going to take that hill while I'm doing it.
Well, so I believe my purpose, and this is part of why I wrote the book, is to wake as many people up to playing the game as humanly possible.
Okay.
And like, I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist here, but if it's a lot easier to win a game if there's a lot less people playing it. And people talk about how evil capitalism is, and then they go, "Well, all these giant corporations," and I go, "Well, yeah, but you have a responsibility. The more players on the field, the more fair the game gets."
Okay.
So if you really think that like giant evil corporations are running the world, then the first thing we need to do is everybody needs to break off into small, like, and play, right?
Okay.
They're convincing the more employees there are, the less people playing the game, right? They're like, when you're in employee mode, you're sort of in NPC mode. You wake up, you get your coffee, you
You're a
go to work.
you're the in Sims. You're the guy in
Yeah,
Sims.
exactly. And that's not as much fun, right? You're the played, not the player. As you wake up to those other phases, you start becoming more and more the player.
Okay. So that sounds like a really good segue into the radical self-responsibility thing.
Huge on this.
Okay. Can you expound on it a bit?
I mean, so I don't ever discuss fault. I think everything is my fault. And that might be, it sounds like self-destructive, but it's like, well, it just, for the sake of argument, everything should be my fault because everything is ultimately my responsibility because I'm the one who's chosen to lead. And spending time worrying about whose fault something is versus just saying, well, this is my responsibility. So therefore, as the leader, I am going to fix it. Right. This
Okay.
coming back to like bosses versus leaders. So like I'll even put it to you this way. I'm in a bunch of these like founders groups with other
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, and you have to put your title in when you join these groups.
Yeah.
Mine says janitor in every single group They all have founder, CEO, president.
Well, it's
Yeah.
part of their identity and their self whatever narrative.
Mm-hmm. And their whole thing, and I talk to them, and they're always like, my employees are. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's why I put janitor, because I clean up after everybody. That's my job. My job is to take responsibility for the shit and clean up the shit. Because if I do that, then they focus on doing their jobs. If I scream at them to go clean up the shit, then they stop doing the things that I need them to do, and they go clean up shit.
Okay. So I have a coaching question now.
Okay.
I'm asking you to coach me on something.
Okay.
I have a tendency to show up similar to the way that you do it. I try to downplay everything I do, not because it's not valuable. I know the value of it. I know how important it is, but I don't feel like I need to make a big deal out of it. Or I choose not to make a big deal. I guess that's a better way to say it. I intentionally choose to keep it low key. And when I'm surrounded by people who are like, I'm this and I'm that, and I'm like, yeah, 90% of what you're saying is garbage, or just you trying to puff yourself up. I find those situations very difficult to navigate because I'm not puffing myself up, so I'm looked at as less than. When you say you're a janitor and they're like, I'm the da 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 da, how do you hold that space?
So one of my favorite things to do is to remind people of the maturity thing, right?
Okay.
I'm like, hey man, it's like, I get it. You know, you're still young. This is your first time here. And saying that to somebody is one of the most crushing things you can do, to just like lowering their speed, right? If they're just like, ah, and it's like, I get it. Like, you feel like you
Bless
need
your
to,
heart.
bless your heart. You feel like you need to take up that space for you to get something done.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I've been around long enough to know that that's not necessary. And like, and one of my favorite things is to say, as the old guy in the room, and people will be like, I'm older than you. I'm like, yeah, but I started at 19 and I've been leading people longer than you. You may be older than me, but like,
Yeah.
as the old guy in the room, as the one who's got a little bit of experience here, Junior, I can tell you that I've decided to put away childish things. One of those childish things is pointing fault at everybody,
Okay.
right? And believing that I know best. Because if I know best, then it's got to be one of two things. And here's where it gets crazy. Either I'm bad at hiring people, because if I can't hire anybody smarter than me, that's what means I know best. Or,
Okay.
right? Or there's nobody smarter than me. Now, this doesn't sound right. I don't believe I'm the smartest man in the world. So
Right.
if I'm walking around going, I know best, what it actually probably means is I'm incapable of hiring somebody smarter than me.
Which is bad. Okay.
Which is bad. So I don't feel like, is that what you're saying? And try saying that to somebody when they're running around saying, I know best, I know best. Say, hey, this means one of two things. Either A, you truly believe yourself to be the smartest person in the world, which is super interesting, and I'd love to study you.
Yeah.
Or B, what you're actually saying is you are terrible at hiring and maintaining anybody smarter than you.
Wow. Okay. I mean, all these sound like you're chopping away at the ego, or the ego is like the trap.
It is a trap because it gets
Okay.
stuck. You are allowed to say, it's my fucking vision.
Right.
You are allowed to say, I'm the one leading. I need you to help me. I need you to follow me. Look, I'm going to take the hits for you. I need you to go try.
In the current climate where people are so hell-bent on creating safe spaces and nurturing environments, which there's a lot of validity to that. But what you just did and said when you leaned into the camera there, that's going to make a lot of those people kind of back away. And that's okay. What?
Get behind me.
Okay.
This is my job. My job is to stop anybody else from coming down on you for doing your job. It is not to tell you how to do your job. It is to protect you so that you can do your job. You see, the idea that safe spaces can exist means somebody has to make said space safe. This is where it's interesting, because it's like, if you're saying you need a space, it means you are admitting that the world is a fucked, dirty, aggressive, ugly, harsh, and evil place.
Well,
And therefore
kind
you
of
require,
is.
a safe space. So that means that you are looking at me as a leader and saying, I don't want to deal with those things. I need you to deal with those things. So if you need me to go deal with the world to make space safe for you, then I might need to be a little more aggressive than someone that you're used to. The kind of person
Wow.
that creates a safe space can't be the kind of person that dwells in one.
That's pretty brilliant. Okay. So safe space or not, I mean, to me, I look at that like you're creating a bubble and then I get to go do my thing in the bubble.
Correct.
The thing
That's
that
my
I'm
job
great
as a
at.
leader.
Okay.
My job as a leader is to keep moving us forward and you protected.
And that's the exchange of value. Okay.
I give you the freedom, protection, and support to be your best.
Okay. And so your staff, whether they're salespeople or not, you're creating coverage for them to go do what they have to do.
Dude, especially the non-sales people. My dev people have the freedom to innovate. Again, I'm a sales guy. You think I'm going to go to my dev department and say, build me this exact thing?
I think
No.
there's a lot of people that would, though.
But that's dumb. Because like my knowledge is like 2 to 3 years in arrears of theirs.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to build me something that's obsolete before you even finish it. Like that's what you're doing. If you really think about it, I pay them to know significantly more than me. So if I tell them exactly what to do, I'm probably asking them to do something that they knew about 3 years ago.
So how do they disarm the threat that presents to their ego and their self-narrative of, I'm the boss, so I need to steer the ship, and steer the ship means telling the guy holding the rudder how to hold the rudder and where to turn it?
No, it doesn't. Steering the ship means steering the ship. This is wherever, like, steering the ship does not mean steering the ship and running the sails and rowing the ship. Like, it's a big ship. In fact, being the captain of the ship on a big ship doesn't mean you ever touch the wheel. You ever seen a big ship? There's 2 dudes with steering wheels and 1 captain standing behind them.
Right.
And yet, in our analogy, when we talk about running a big company, they're like, well, I got to steer the ship. And it's like, if the captain kicked over those 2 dudes to actually spin those wheels himself, you'd mutiny and you'd be like, this man is psychotic. Put him in the brig so we can get home safely.
Okay. I
But
don't
let that go.
I think people lose sight of that. I mean, the threat to their own
All the
personal
time.
sense of identity is because ego, I equate a lot with like this narrative you have of your identity of who you are. And when that gets challenged, it's very threatening, because if you have to admit that you don't really know who you are and that you don't really know what you're doing, then holy crap, it's like the coyote running out in the middle of thin air.
They're not mutually exclusive, Dave.
Okay.
I know who I am, and I know that I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, how do you get okay with that?
Because that's how you learn anything. Like the idea that people are insecure about the fact that they will be the worst they are at something when they start doing it is insane to me. Well, that's logical.
Yeah, nobody wants
What
to
do you
go through
expect?
that,
Like,
though.
what is wrong with you that you think you're going to pick something up and be awesome at it the first time and then quit because you weren't the first time you picked it up?
Okay, so we both know. I mean, I'm sure that you know. I've known a number of entrepreneurs who have been successful first time out of the gate,
I actually call that the curse. So
and
I
believe that they're going to do it the
curse.
second time too, which never seems to work out. After they buy the Porsche, it's all downhill.
You know how grateful I am for getting kicked in my teeth so many times in the beginning?
You learn those lessons quick.
100%. And that's
it
why
makes you humble.
I don't want to learn from somebody who's like, well, I started in business with a humble loan from my father for $1 million and was able to create a real estate empire. Like, I don't want to learn from you. I want to learn from the guy who goes, look, I was broke. I was like, me personally, my second business, my daughter is 6 months old. I have $50 to my name, and I have no clue how I'm going to put groceries in the refrigerator, and I'm 2 months behind on rent. And my wife, my now ex-wife, love her to death, but like didn't have the staying power to get through all that with me, right?
Yeah.
Was like, you're a psychopath. Like, you need to go get a job. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, that's illogical. If I get a job today, how long does the pay cycle? Because I think like an entrepreneur, a business person. How long is the pay cycle? When will I actually see that check? We'll starve to death and be evicted by then. I need to get paid tomorrow. The only person that gets paid every day is the person that owns the business, which means I have to tomorrow figure out how I'm going to represent my business to get someone to pay me money.
Wow. Okay.
That's the only option I have. My back is against the wall.
That's
I'm
a
going to
scary
spend the
edge,
last
though.
of our money. I'm going to spend the last of our money to buy us dinner tonight, and then tomorrow I'll make more. I have no clue what I'm going to do, but tomorrow I'm going to make more.
Wow.
And that day I got out and I walked around and I knocked on every business that was new and I asked them what they needed. And some guy, after hours of just striking out, goes, I need a logo. And I was like, I can do a logo. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, $500, man. Give me a half down. I'll be back tomorrow with the finished logo. And I got $250 out of him and I ran home.
Wow.
And I was like, here's some money. I'm going to go design a logo. And she's like, do you know how to do that? I was like, no.
Thank God Claude does now, or whatever.
But at the time, I took out Adobe Fireworks, which was the simplest graphics program I could find.
Yeah.
And I threw together 3 concepts, and I went to the guy and I said, what do you like about the 3? What do you want me to change? And he goes, this, and this. I'm like, by the way, for an extra $100, I can knock out business cards for you tomorrow. And he goes, oh yeah, sure. Right. Upsold him, went home, finished the work, brought back the business cards the next day, got the $350. Right now I got a little bit of cash. And then I go, you don't have anybody else that, again, ask for referrals. Oh, my brother's opening a business. They need a website. A website, that's more money than a logo. I ran over there so fast, and I again, my back was against the wall. I had no choice.
Okay.
I sold a website. I sold another website. I sold more design work. The next thing I know, it's like 3 weeks later, I'm all caught up on the rent. We've got food in the refrigerator. I've got money in the bank again, and everything's okay. But in that moment, what I learned about survival, what I learned about, and that's the other thing, like the number of times, Dave, that someone has said, a partner has said, we don't have payroll on Monday. And I said, don't worry, it'll be there by Friday.
And then you went out and found a way to get it. So there's a big shift in identity there too, because it's not, I am this, I am that. It's you are the provider. You are the one the hunter that goes and gets the money.
100%.
And become whatever you have to become to get that money. Okay.
That's all it is. In the beginning, there's just getting to the first dollar. Every entrepreneur kind of skips over this, and they, especially now with ChatGPT and Claude, they're like, ChatGPT, tell me how to make a scalable business out of my fucking cake pops in my refrigerator. And it's like, it gives them this long, amazing plan. And then they're like, I'm going to do that. And it's like, no, the first thing you need to do is go sell a cake pop. And they're like, yes, but ChatGPT gave me this brilliant marketing strategy that once I invest tens of thousands of dollars, I will be successful. And it's like, that's so much worse for you than learning how to go sell product to people.
Wow. Okay.
So like all of this is, again, and it's I think ChatGPT could kill Agile because it is telling people to do much more complicated things than just start small and iterate.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that are, in quotes, doing Agile have pretty much lost the thread anyway, because they never really did it right in the first place.
Start small and iterate.
Okay.
That's the whole point. So when you go to ChatGPT to go, I have an idea to run a hot dog stand, and it goes, here's how we make a global hot dog enterprise. It's like, that's the exact opposite of how that works.
What I said I wanted to do. Well, okay. I have 2 more things. Well, I have 2 things I want to ask you about that are both related, but how would you summarize this book? If I was going to give this to somebody, like, what is it going to do for them? What problem is it going to solve for them?
It's going to answer 2 questions.
Okay.
Why am I unable to attract and hire people, right, that are better than me?
Okay.
Because that's a huge one. I cannot tell you how often people say to me, I'm trying to hire people that are smarter than me. I'm trying to hire people that are better than me, and they can't seem to figure it out.
Okay.
So if you read this, it will explain to you what is wrong with you. Because I promise you, it's not that they don't exist, okay? It's not that there are not people out there who aren't more skilled than you or smarter than you that can help you.
Yeah.
You are not ready to lead them.
Okay.
Right? And it's going to answer another huge question is, how do I manage my most difficult to manage employees?
Okay.
So if you are trying to figure out how to hire these people and you can't, do the book. I don't say read the book. I say do the book because, again,
it's a workbook.
It's a workbook. And if you are sitting there going, man, I am so frustrated because I keep telling them what to do and they're not doing it, do the book.
Okay. So I want to close out in one specific area that I think it's brilliant that they're in here. And I don't mean this in the wrong way. These are not things that pop into my head when I think of Nic. But you have the thing about self-kindness and just giving yourself like a hug for all of this. Like, how does self-care become part of this whole thing?
Well, Dave, when I first started getting into nonviolent communication, I was like, I'm super passionate about nonviolent communication. And you were like, Nic, you are not.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best interviews that our best conversations ever was that conversation and everything that you said was spot on. And I learned a ton from it.
Well, because again, who do you go learn conflict resolution from? Somebody who's never been in conflict, or someone whose family Easter egg hunts turn into knife fights? Like, I know conflict, right? Like, I lived there. So
Right.
like my ability to maintain conflict makes more sense. Like, why?
Your comfort in a conflict zone. Whereas I
Correct.
think a
And
lot of people approach it like I need to avoid it or get rid of it, not be
correct.
in it.
And
Okay.
so for you to say like, hey, Nick, you're a really harsh judge of yourself. Why would you be a person telling me to? Because when I write something, when I train something, everything that you've ever seen come out of anybody I've ever worked with, most of the time I'm the one writing it, right?
Okay.
And most of the time I'm writing it from, again, I'm not as smart as you guys. I'm not an academic. I'm a dropout who is literally interacting with people and myself most of the time,
Right.
right? And I'm like, why did I do that? Why do I do this? Why is this an issue for me? And a lot of the times a big problem with when you start taking radical responsibility is you become really harsh on yourself
Okay.
because everything's your responsibility.
Well, like you said, everything's your fault.
Well, again, not fault. I think everything's no one's fault. I think everything is my responsibility. Again, a big
Okay.
problem is that we make these mutually exclusive situations and we keep bundling things together that don't necessarily need to be bundled together.
Okay.
Fault and responsibility seem to be synonymous to a lot of people, and they are not synonyms. You know, there are so many things that I had nothing to do with, they're still my responsibility to fix.
Okay. Well, so
I
how,
just believe that looking at whose fault it is a massive waste of time that is negating me from fixing it.
I think yes, and a lot of people run towards that because it allows them to preserve that self-narrative of it's not me, it wasn't me, I didn't know anything about it.
It's always me.
Yeah.
Because I like to give myself, and here's the interesting thing. I do it from a selfish place,
Okay.
right? You think that you are, and I don't mean you personally, but I just mean like when you do that, when you say it's not me, you think you're empowering yourself because you're like, oh, it's not me, therefore I'm still awesome. Every time you say that you can't do something because it's not you, you just sucked power out of your life. You said, hey, I am a leaf at a stream. I am being pushed around by life.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to believe that under any circumstances. I don't care what is happening. I have control because I have control of everything from the tip of my nose back. I have control 100% over how I react, how I lead, what I do. So it's always my responsibility.
Right.
So removing those things, separating those two things is so massively empowering because it actually means that no matter what anybody does, I can fix it.
Okay.
Doesn't matter whose fault it is. Doesn't matter if it's my fault, your fault, Steve's fault, God's fault, Satan's fault,
One
Trump's
way or
fault,
another, you're gonna
Biden's fault.
figure
I
something
don't
out.
care whose fault it is. I can fix it. You know how empowering that is? No matter who fucked it up, the president of the United States can fuck it up. I'll fix it.
It's awesome.
That's how my brain is wired.
Yeah.
And so when you think like that's one of the mental traps we play for ourselves. We play this trap where if it's never my fault, right, then I'm somehow making myself stronger
You're
because
just
I'm
caught in the
never
current.
taking it.
Yeah.
You're telling yourself that you're just getting blown around all day.
Well, how does this translate into self-kindness? Because I'm very curious to hear how self-kindness shows up for you. Like, what does that mean for you? How are you kind to yourself?
So I am very kind to myself because I know how hard I push myself,
Okay.
right? So I make time. Again, I don't allow toxic relationships in my life. I don't allow people.
But you did at one point, I'm assuming, and you stopped.
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's like looking at the way that those things affect me, right?
Okay.
And looking at the way that like how I treat myself affects me. And looking at the way of how I love myself affects me. And looking at the way, so one of the natural laws of business is your employees will only treat your people as well as you treat them.
Okay.
And then when you start to realize that you will only truly treat people as well as you treat yourself,
yeah,
you start to realize that as a leader, you owe yourself self-care because if you don't value it for you, you don't see the value in it for them. And if you don't see the value in it for them, you're never going to want to give it to them. So like the fact that I give myself time, that I take myself out of the race, that I trust my employees and say, I'm going to take a step back and take a few days off and just let you guys handle it.
Yeah.
Right. And then they do that. One of my strongest, best managers took Thursday, Friday, the whole weekend. Like she usually works for the weekend. She was just didn't do nothing, right? And her team literally had the best week they've ever had. And it's not because she's a bad manager, it's because she's a great manager. It's because she's always like looking out for them. And they were like, wait, you're going to take a break? Take it.
Yeah.
You need it. Because you're always making sure we take breaks. And it's like, well, and instead of her being like, no, I'm not there, she was like, yeah, I'm gonna.
That's awesome.
So again, it's that everything rolls down a hill. And
Yeah.
if it's coming from a place of like, I deserve this because I'm always burnt out, and it's from a high ego place, it's probably going to ruin you. But if it comes from a place of like, I need to treat myself with the same standard that I treat them. And if I start telling myself that I don't deserve breaks, I don't deserve peace, I don't deserve rest, I don't deserve those things, then I start looking at my employees and saying, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. How dare they take breaks when I don't take breaks? How dare they do this when I don't do that?
Yeah, scarcity thing. So Stuart Young and I talk a lot about how you're responsible for doing the work for yourself that you need to do so that you can show up and be present for other people the way that
100%.
you want to serve them. And that's directly like in line with that. I love that.
100%.
idea.
How is Stewie?
He's great. Yeah, I got a call with him in 5 minutes. So
give him my best.
I will. So if people want to find the book, they can get it on Amazon.
Yep.
Anywhere else you want them to go?
Or breathingego.com. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to know more about the book and the workshops that are coming from the book, breathingego.com. But like I said, it's a really fun thing to do because the book is designed for you to read on Saturday or Sunday, one chapter every month or every week for 10 weeks.
Okay.
Right. And then it's designed with like some journaling to actually have you reflect on what you're doing that week and cause little tiny changes in the way that you're seeing the week. Right. So it's not like you sit down and cram through a book. It's you sit down and you make small micro adjustments. And just like most of the conversations with me, Dave, I tried to make a book that had that same kind of effect of like, hey, small little conversations lead to big thought changes.
Yeah. This was great, man. Well, congratulations. And thank you for this conversation and for all the stuff. It's great to catch up.
You know, like I said, anything you know where I should be with this stuff. Alistair says he's like, you're sort of like an orphaned entity in the Agile community at this point. I'm like, I am. And then I wrote a book, so like I have no idea where to go next. So if you guys want to point to stuff.
I think you should pitch us at the conference. I think the messaging would really resonate with people.
I think so too. I just don't even know what the next steps, and Jessica isn't in charge anymore, so I don't even know what to add.
I can find that stuff for you.
That'd be great.
Cool. And if they want to find you, they can also find you on LinkedIn, I'm assuming, or Facebook.
I am the only Nic Sementa in the world. So NIC SEMENTA. You can type it into anything: Google, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, anything.
Cool.
I am the only one. If you put a K on it, you will get a mortgage broker in New York or New Jersey. I do know him, but we're not related.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Well, we are related, but we're like third cousins.
Okay. Well, hopefully they won't do that.
Yeah, don't follow him unless you need a mortgage. I guess shameless plug for the other Nic Sementa. If you live in New York or New Jersey and need a mortgage, hit that guy up. If you're not in that situation and you want help with leadership, I would be the correct Nic Sementa.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dave.
If you learn to work the old way, but the new way is what you need, my job's to make